This is part two of our interview with Amy C. Elliott and Elizabeth Donius about their documentary World's Largest, a look at some of the biggest and best roadside attractions in America. Now, you set off to do a certain type of movie, and that changed. So how do you deal with that as filmmakers? How do you deal with a story that's evolving? And, just talk about how that process worked out for you.
Well, I think that's part of the fun, for sure, of making documentaries, is that everything is up in the air, and you got to fire your whole brain. And both of us had to fire our whole brains to make this movie everything that it could be. So that part of the fun was, when we started, it was like, well, these are attractions, and they're meant to draw you in, and they're asking you to visit. So we'll go and visit and see what's there, and that was the premise. So when we got there and we started to find different things, it's that's the journey of finding the story of the film. I mean, in the beginning, we would interview people for hours. And
Right.
then by the end, like our last shoots, we would go in, and I think
exactly
they'd be
what you want.
surprised how much we seem to know about their lives. And we're like, well, we've been to these other places that are very, very similar, and we knew what we were looking for.
So is that something that you would that you learned along the way, of just the production end of things, how to get your story kind of ahead of time?
I don't think about ahead of time. It's just that I really would say the first shoot we went on, we didn't really know where it was going to go. And it was actually in Minnesota, which is ground zero for these things for some reason. We went to over 60 places, and I think 22 or 23 were from Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And so they have the market cornered. And we spent about a month in Minnesota. And we thought, well, it's a big state. We went all over the state, and there are so many different types of things there that we thought we were going to get a million different stories. And the same themes kept cropping up. And really, and one of the great things about doing this together is we're friends for a very long time. And so we'd go back to the hotel and kind of hash everything out. And we were like, these people are saying the same things, even in, northern Minnesota with the world's largest walleye, or, down in the south with the world's largest ear of corn. They're talking about very, very similar themes and similar concepts and pride in their towns and why they built these things and what their fears are or hopes are for the future and what they want to celebrate. And so it was it was evolving, but it became clear very quickly. And so it wasn't that we did a lot of work before we got to these places, but each one sort of built on each other. Yeah, so we sort of could almost anticipate because so many similar things kept coming up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that seems like some good fortune for filmmakers.